Nahum means comfort. And I'm doing this for a reason. We're gonna and what is the city in the Bible, in the New Testament, that uses this name Nahum? I thought it was, we say Capernaum, but really it's Capernaum. And I went into great lengths about what Capper was, and basically it turned out to be like I talked about a protection, a comfort, like a fort with daubed walls, covered walls. The idea of that, the Jews, the Hebrew language just does it all the time. The walls are covered, so they use the word covered for the name. Okay, and that whole word implies the fact that it's covered with asphalt to protect the wall, and so that capper goes to Kippur, which means a covering.
Oh, they have a lot of politics in that area.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Babel, it's all duh. That's where the oil is. Okay. So, if it
would that be the same thing as the ark?
You're barking up the right gopher wood. That's you're barking up the right tree, but I don't think it means ark. Ark literally means box.
No, I meant covering, the covering of the ark.
Yes, it was. Well, I believe it was pitch. No, that they asked to cover with pitch, but it could have been bitumen, which is another name for tar or perhaps pitch. So, but the operative word here is covered, and we understand that as New Testament believers that we are covered by the blood. Okay,
right.
So they use right now. It's coming up. Okay, in the springtime there are 7 festivals altogether for the Hebrews. There are 3 in the spring: Passover, First Fruits, and Pentecost. And Jesus was his death, burial, resurrection, First Fruits, Pentecost, the Holy Spirit. Those 3 have already played out in recent history in the last 2,000 years. There are 4 feasts that are the fall feasts that are yet to be played out. And I don't know all of them, but they include Yom Kippur. There's that word Kippur, means a covering, and Yom is the word for day, and the word Kippur means covering or atonement. It is the price paid to cover your sins, and so they have the day called Yom Kippur, Day of Atonement. There's another day coming called the Day of Trumpets. There's another one, the Day of Judgment, and there's another one that we call, we anglicize these words. And Yom Kippur, but it's probably not pronounced that way. It's close, but it's anglicized. And we say Rosh Hashanah. And that literally means the head of the year. Hashanah is year and Rosh is head. Okay. Now, I've got you all involved. I'm going to pull the trigger here. I'm going to drop the ball. The very first word in the Hebrew Bible is in the beginning, in Genesis 1:1, and the word is Bereshit. Okay, there again, we kind of put our ears, but there is a word in there that you just heard a moment ago. Bereshit.
What did you put when you said first time?
Rashid.
So is
Rosh. So in the beginning, in the Hebrew, Beth, the B in front means in. Rosh is the head. So what does that mean? If you go to the source of the river, you go to the head of the river. Everybody's been looking for the head of the Nile, right? So head of the flow of time.
in the beginning.
The beginning. Good. Very good, Sam.
It's a spot to check.
So and that's the way Hebrew is they take one root and they'll, like we did with Kippur, it means a walled city. Well, it's called a walled city because it's covered with pitch. It's got a wall and it's covered with pitch. But it's still Kippur, K-P-R, Kippur, and that's where we get, or it comes from a covering or even atonement. So literally that could be the atonement of comfort because it's Kippur in Manchu. Okay? That's the way that they build their words.
You never did find oil in Israel, did they?
In Israel itself, I don't believe so, but they did in the Mediterranean in their waters.
In the scriptures, it says they'll find oil at the foot of Asher.
Asher. Oh, okay.
But I don't think they ever have yet.
I don't think so. I don't know. I'm sure we will hear about it.
Well, there was a big talk a number of years ago, 10, 15, 20 years ago. There was a big talk. Somebody was drilling there and looking for it, but I never heard any more about it.
It's probably all underneath the Dead Sea. That's a hole.
Is it supposed to be Nahum? Well, not Nahum, but Nahum. They need comfort, and he had a message of comfort. And for the wrath and fearful people in peril through the cruel and awful military power of Assyria. That's exactly right. Even though Assyria was mighty and large and powerful, I believe Nahum's message was, I wrote it down, might does not mean right.
He's not bringing comfort to Nineveh. They're going to be destroyed.
He's bringing comfort to Judah.
Well, yeah.
As he said, God will rescue Judah.
Now remember, we're about 100 years before the captivity. So we're right at the time, well, I'm assuming that Assyria has already taken the northern kingdom at this time. Because if Nineveh is destroyed, then they won't have the armies to take Israel, the northern kingdom. So, does anybody have anything they want to talk about this week? That was kind of a jump in and get going beginning. Let's go ahead and see if we can finish Nahum. And we're coming up with Habakkuk, and then we've got 4 more before we're ending. But we need to be thinking about where we want to go next.
Well, we'll go back to Psalms. So tell us the chapter.
Yeah, we'll do that. But I'm just going to throw out that I think maybe we ought to look at Romans. There are parts that for me are not clear. I don't know whether I'm going to be able to clear those up. But there are other parts that are crystal clear that I think we need to dwell on those and emphasizing that that's going to be Thanksgiving or Christmas before we get there. We got several more weeks to do. And it may snow before we get to Romans. Sure.
All those points around.
Okay, Nahum, he's putting he's giving the death knell here to Nineveh. He's telling them what's going to happen. And I don't think that he gives them any recourse. Before when Jonah went through the city, he says, if you don't repent, God's going to destroy you. And I don't think Nahum has indicated any repentance required because they're over the hill. They're doomed for destruction. This is their death knell, so to speak. And we've gone through chapter 1, and just one thing I want to mention in there was verse 8. It says, but with an overrunning flood he will make an utter end of the place thereof, and darkness shall pursue his enemies. The overrunning flood is going to come up in this chapter 2. There are a number of people that believe and that Nineveh was part of the destruction of Nineveh was by flood.
Verse 6 of chapter 2, exactly what happened.
Yeah.
The palace shall be dissolved.
Okay, so let's go ahead and start chapter 2 here. Chapter 2, verse 1. He that dasheth in pieces is come up before thy face, and that is a specific reference to Babylon. It's coming to, and a typical thing that they would do would be to grab a child and smash his head against a wall and kill him. And so that's who's coming is Babylon, and that's the way that they destroyed. That's also the way that Assyria and or Nineveh destroyed was by terrible acts of yeah. He that dasheth in pieces is come up before thy face. Keep the munition, that is, keep your fortress. Make sure your fortress is good. Watch the way. Let's watch out for armies coming. Make thy loins strong. In other words, get fit. Fortify thy power mightily. Strengthen yourself. For the Lord hath turned away the excellency of Jacob and the excellency of Israel. For the emptiers have emptied them out and marred their vine branches. So that's another way that a conquering military would destroy a nation, would be to burn and destroy the fruits of the trees.
They did it in World War I, they did it in World War II.
Sometimes they even put salt on the soil.
They call it the scorched earth policy.
Yeah.
Okay. Verse 3. The shield of his mighty men is made red. Okay. There is a note here that says that warlike preparations made by the Ninevites, they had red shields and scarlet or purple clothing. Their chariots were finely decorated and were very fast. However, I can appreciate that, but I also refer back to Revelation. I think it's chapter 19 where it talks about how Christ's vesture was dipped. Does it say blood or does it say red?
I thought it was blood. I thought it was because of of all the dead people, the dead people that he voted for.
Well, crimson is obviously a red color. Dipped in blood, verse Revelation 19:13, and he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood. But I have no reservation in believing that there's the possibility that there's another reference in the Old Testament. It says, "Who is this man with crimson garments," or something like that? So it's the idea of saying that in battle you get blood splattered everywhere, and so your clothes, even though you start white, you wind up red. So that's kind of what I get, the feeling I get out of here.
I think it's even if I look at the even though the clothes be scarlet, but
the crimson, white snow.
Isaiah. That's in Isaiah. That's in Isaiah. Yeah. Is that what you're? Yeah, that's what Diane's telling me. I thought I was being smart with that song. That was all wrong. Yeah, that's Isaiah 1:18. Thank you, girls.
Okay, this is kind of leads you to believe is in the future tense. The shield of his mighty men is made red. In other words, it's going to become red. I don't know. That's the sense that I'm getting from it. The valiant men are in scarlet. The chariots shall be with flaming torches in the day. The preparation and the fir trees shall be terribly shaken. In other words, everything's in motion. The chariots, they're starting fires. Okay, the chariots will rage in the streets. They shall jostle one another in the broad ways. They shall seem like torches. They shall run like the lightnings. So they're fast. They're carrying fire. Verse 5, he shall recount his worthies. I believe, they shall stumble in their walk. He shall recount his worthies. I think that's a picture or an indication of the king of Nineveh counting the number of mighty men, so to speak, that he's got, counting his armies, his officers, and they shall stumble in their walk. In other words, they're scared to death. They're trembling. They shall make haste to the wall thereof, and the defense shall be prepared. The gates of the rivers shall be opened, and the palace shall be dissolved. Okay. The commentator brings in an outside reference, and I think it's worth looking at. An account given by Diodorus Siculus, he begins, he says, there was a prophecy received from their forefathers that Nineveh should not be taken till the river first became an enemy of the city. Okay, so this is a secular prophecy. This is not biblical. This is secular prophecy. Again, it's an old wives' tale or whatever. That he believes that the river will become an enemy of the city. When that happens, and the Euphrates or the Tigris, being swollen with continued rains, overflowed part of the city and threw down 20 stadia of the wall. I think that's about 20 miles. The king then, imagining this is what we don't get in the scripture. The king then, imagining that prophecy, the oracle, was accomplished, the river's now become his enemy, that the river was now manifestly become an enemy to the city, casting aside all hope for safety, and lest he should fall into the hands of the enemy, built a large funeral pyre in the palace, and having collected all his gold and silver and his investments, and the concubines, the eunuchs, placed himself with them in the fire and burnt them himself in the palace altogether. And that led to the death of the king. So the king is dead, and it's going to come important a little bit later. When the death of the king was announced by certain deserters, the enemy entered in the breach which the waters had made and took the city. This prophecy, thus the prophecy of Nahum was literally fulfilled. The gates of the river were opened and the palace dissolved. Okay. Verse 7 goes on, and Hutzab shall be led away captive. Now, we're not really sure whether Hutzab is the queen, yeah, who was not mentioned in the burning, that the queen may have survived. It says here
But she was captive.
that she means the queen of Nineveh. The queen of Nineveh, okay, had escaped the burning mentioned above. And there is no account of the queen being burnt, but only of the king, the concubines, the eunuchs. And so we may therefore naturally conclude that the queen escaped and is represented here as brought up and delivered to the conqueror, the conquering army. Now, some people think that Hutzab is Nineveh itself, the city. And so I just leave that up to you to make your own choice. But it's interesting that Hutzab shall be led away captive. She shall be brought up, and her maids shall lead her with the voice of doves, tabering upon their breasts. Now, that was a pretty standard way for a conquering army to, take possession, and by taking the king's bride or wife, it's a double gotcha. They're saying, okay, I'm rubbing it in his face. Now, your queen is now my queen. So it's kind of like chess, I guess you could say. Okay. Take ye the spoil of silver. Now, silver and gold don't go up in flames. They just melt. And so take ye the spoil of silver, take the spoil of gold, for there is none end of the store and glory out of all the pleasant furniture. She is empty and void and waste.
Okay, now we just take you the spoil. Is that Assyria comes in and takes the spoil, or they just take the spoil and run with it?
No,
they never run with it.
Babylon.
Okay.
Babylon is going to take the spoil.
Okay.
In Nineveh, she is empty and void and waste, and the heart melteth, and the knees smite together, and much pain is in all goings, and the faces of them all gather blackness. Now that indicates that there was probably a period of starvation. They were under siege for a period of time, because when you're in starvation, your skin gets darker. The idea of blackness here. But now remember, Nineveh has been conquering cities and nations for many, many years. It conquered Israel. Okay, took all their gold, all their silver. They took captives. And they've done that hundreds of times in hundreds of cities. And all of this stuff has come back to Nineveh.
That's how they got most of everything.
And that's why we're talking about all this gold and silver that's here. Where is the dwelling of the lions? The lions are the soldiers, the military of Nineveh. And the feeding place of the young lions. Well, that's the ones that are in training, the boot camps. They're not only they have warriors, but they got warriors in training. They're lions, they're young lions. Where the lion, even the old lion, walked, and the lions whelped, and none was made afraid of them. It's saying, where are they? Where are these lions? They're not here. And the lion did tear the pieces enough for his whelps, his strangles for his lionesses, and filled his holes with prey. That means that's all the furniture and gold and things that they've brought in. And his dens with rabble. Behold, I am against thee. That basically summarizes the whole chapter. Behold, I am against thee, saith the Lord of the host, and I will burn her chariots in the smoke, and the sword shall devour the young lions, and I will cut off thy prey from the earth, and the voice of thy messengers. Before, the messengers were bringing news of Nineveh conquering nations, Nineveh winning here, Nineveh killing and bringing back spoils. But I will cut off the prey from thy prey from the earth. In other words, you're not going to get any more. And the voice of thy messengers shall no more be heard. You're not going to hear that victory cry again.
You know what other country this reminds me of? It was Japan before World War II. They conquered. They never lost.
And the country, they even in China.
Yeah. And they were just going and conquering everything. Then they decided to attack us.
Yeah.
Hey, living in Russia behind them.
Yep.
Interesting.
Okay. So let's go on to chapter 3. Woe to the bloody city. That kind of says it all. It's coming. It is all full of lies and robbery. The prey departeth not. The noise of the whip, the noise of the rattling of wheels, and the prancing of horses and the jumping of chariots. The horseman lifteth up both the bright sword and the glittering spear, and there is a multitude of slain and a great number of carcasses, and there is none end of their corpses. They stumble upon their corpses. Because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well-favored harlot. Now, and what does that mean? That well-favored harlot is Nineveh. And she's not comported herself in a seemly manner. She has made the whoredoms, I believe, generally implies and we see that again in Revelation. Mr. Babylon, mother of harlots, she had commerce. That's what we. That's what in English the word intercourse means is a trading of goods. And the concept of mistress and whore muddies that and sullies the idea of a good type of trade and well, we call it the commonweal, the commonwealth, the commonwealth of the nation. That is the goodness of the nation. But they've sullied that. And because she made alliances and broke alliances and made alliances and,
Okay. Let me get my application here. And then I want you to look at what happened to Nineveh, what she had become. I think God is telling us through this example that we should be careful with somebody who comes promising things that are too good to be true. That all the riches and success and the climbing the ladder and we're going to pay you so much, everything's sort of like they're paying you to get you, and if you take it, you're prostituting yourself, not sexually, but you're prostituting yourself for what you might gain for the purpose.
You're selling your honor,
for bread,
your truth, your
Well, we must be careful.
Well, it goes right on here. The next phrase is the mistress of witchcraft. Okay, so they're not only how do I say it, physically prostituting themselves, but they are consorting with satanic powers, witchcraft.
Mixing of potion.
Yeah, well, but that involves incantations of invoking curses, which is satanic.
And what they're doing is they're denying God. I mean, they made a pact with the devil.
Okay, go ahead.
Enticing on the outside, deceitful on the inside.
And there you go. The same nation, the same city that selleth nations. That was the whoredom that she did. She sells nations by betraying them. Okay, through her whoredoms, and families through her witchcrafts. Verse 5, Behold, I am against thee. God is speaking, I saith the Lord of hosts, and I will discover thy skirts upon thy face. I think that is a very Hebrew kind of phraseology, and the idea is that your private parts are going to be exposed, which is the most embarrassing thing that can happen. And that's what I think happened in the case of Noah and his son Ham. There was something going on there, maybe more than just him being exposed. He was drunk. But that's what I'm saying is typically when it talks about
his wife or one of his daughters.
You don't know. Where is that? I will discover, that is, discover thy skirts upon my face. In other words, the skirt is going to be put on your face, so you can't see what's going on, and some bad things are happening. Okay. And I'm going to bring thy kingdoms to shame. Verse 6, and I will cast abominable filth upon thee, and make thee vile, and will set thee as a gazing stock. That used to be a form of punishment in early America, was to get locked in the stocks and get made just to be looked at, you know. And it shall come to pass that all they that look upon me shall flee from me and say, Nineveh is laid waste, who will bemoan her? Whence shall I seek comforters for thee? In other words, nobody cares. You know, even if I look for somebody to cry for you, there's nobody that cares. And we're not going to find anyone. Art thou better than populous No? Now that is a city in Egypt that was situate among the rivers. I believe it was on the seacoast, that had the waters round about it, had a moat, so to speak, whose rampart was the sea. That is, one wall was the sea, it had opened to the sea, and her wall was from the sea. Ethiopia, that's southern Africa, and Egypt, that's northern Africa, were her strength, the strength of No, and it was infinite. That's pretty large. Put and Lubim were my helpers. I believe Put is Libya to the west of Egypt. I'm not sure where Lubim, but I think it's the same place to the west. Were thy helpers. This is talking about No. So No had all this help, and yet, verse 10, yet was she carried away. She went into captivity. Her young children also were dashed in pieces at the top of the streets, and they cast lots for her honorable men. What does that mean? They're sold into slavery. And her great men were bound in chains. That's the what do they call it? The priests, the intelligentsia, the leaders of the country are great men. Thou also shalt be drunken. And I think that is, the idea is that you just don't have your wits about you anymore. You're total confusion. You can't make any decisions. Thou shalt be hid. Thou shalt seek strength because of the enemy. All thy strongholds shall be like fig trees with the first ripe figs. And here's the picture. If they be shaken, if the tree be shaken, the figs, they shall even fall into the mouth of the eaters. So the idea is that you come up and you scare the city, you just shake it a little bit and it'll just crumble. And all the good things will fall into the mouth of the attacker. Draw thee waters. He's giving him some advice here. Draw thee waters for the siege. Fortify thy strongholds. Go into the clay and tread the mortar and make strong the built brick kiln. In other words, he's saying, make plans. It's going to be bad. As a matter of fact, it's irrevocable, but you might as well work and busy yourself to do as much as you can to protect yourself. There shall the fire devour thee. The sword shall cut thee off. It shall eat thee up like the cankerworm. We've seen that in Joel, I think. And make thyself many as the cankerworm. Make thyself many as the locust. In other words, you need a lot of help. It's not going to work, but you need a lot of help. Thou hast multiplied thy merchants above the stars of heaven. And this, I think, looks exactly at Mr. Babylon. I think it's chapter 17 or 18 of Revelation, where you have multiplied thy merchants. The cankerworm spoileth and fleeth away. Verse 17, thy crowned are as the locusts, and thy captains as the great grasshoppers. Well, these, it says right up above that they're fleeing away. Everybody's leaving Nineveh. They know what's coming. They've heard. They've heard the word. And their place is not known where they are. We can't find them. They're gone. Thy shepherds slumber, O king of Assyria. Thy nobles, that's their leaders, thy nobles shall dwell in the dust. Thy people is scattered upon the mountains, and no man gathereth them. In other words, you can't get anybody organized to be a defense. Verse 19 closes it out, says, there is no healing of thy wounds. In other words, this is going to take you down. Thy wound is grievous. All that hear the bruit of thee shall clap the hands over thee. And I don't think that's a good thing to do, but we've had a tendency to applaud even someone's downfall, and I don't think that's a good thing. But I guess it's pagan people all around that are the ones who are going to clap their hands. The bruit, I looked that up. I was pretty sure it was noise, and that's what it is. Noise, uproar, rumor. It could be a rumor, yeah. Okay. So it could be either one. All that hear the bruit of thee shall clap their hands over thee, and for upon whom hath not thy wickedness passed continually. So that last phrase there is a description of what Nineveh was doing to the surrounding environment, the nations, the peoples around. On whom hath thy wickedness, hath not thy wickedness passed continually. I mean, you've been a villain. You've been a bad boy all all around.
That's your turn.
And now God doesn't say, you did what I asked you to, and you took Israel. He doesn't say that. He punishes them not for that, he punishes them because of their wickedness.
Yeah, they went beyond extreme.
Well, he saved them once, and they went back to old ways again. None of that bad got worse.
Yeah, these guys that go to prison, they're just, I mean, I'll be good when I get out. I'll walk the line.
They learn how to be worse while they're in.
Yeah.
They learn how to be good and not to get caught.
Yeah.
You know, there's much to be said for the biblical, how do I say it, the biblical punishment for some crimes is death. Number one, the responsible person can no longer do the same thing again.
Yeah.
So, number two, you have to pay to support it. Of course, I don't think they had prisons in the time that these laws were formed. And we had, historically, from, let's say, from Roman times to the present, we've had prisons. And usually they've not been nice. It's not TV and 3 meals a day.
Well, Roman times, if you didn't have somebody to feed you, bring food to you, you just died.
Okay.
That's the way I understand it.
So the problem being that there was no, if you were in jail, if you were in prison, you were pretty much going to be there forever. So there again, you are out of civilization and no longer can cause any hurt.
I don't remember now. If they were found guilty, or which they all were, they were arrested and found guilty, they went to the rock mine and the rock pit. Sometimes they'll be able to shuffle off from here to there.
Right.
Or they found rocks and make roads for the Romans.
Mm-hmm.
But they were slaves, laborers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in World War II, the Nazis, they used most of their prisoners who could work in building fortifications and in their mines and whatever, work them till they die, then they get some more.
The idea of rehabilitation is fairly recent. And the idea of fixing the perpetrator, and yes, some can be fixed. The power of Jesus can create a new man, and we've seen that numerous times in historical cases. But by and large, there's a nice word, recidivism rate. Right? That is the fact that the person gets out of prison and then repeats the same crime is pretty high. But think about it. If you're caught in adultery, the penalty is death for both the woman and the man. So this takes two individuals that would have the propensity to commit adultery again out of the society. And it sends a picture, don't commit adultery.
So when someone commits a crime, who do they commit a crime against?
Well, first of all, it's God. And then it's the person or persons they commit it with.
They commit a crime against
Society.
So why is society trying to make the criminal comfortable? The criminal still should try to pay.
well, that's the other thing is restitution.
Yeah, I don't want to mean pay financial or whatever, but it's just if it's cooped up or whatever. There's so many things that we used to have what they call them chain gangs, but workforces. They were out there doing things. Sheriff in Arizona had them out working. They worked farms. We wouldn't have to have all these immigrants come in and working if we just used the prisoners to do stuff. Because the crime was against society. And they don't even have to say, I'm sorry. You know, there was this saying about a person that got too old to take care of himself, just go ahead and commit a crime. Well, the business is well taken care of. Yeah. And you don't have to pay for a thing. Okay.
Okay, it's 8 o'clock. And we're done with chapter 3. We'll start Habakkuk next week. And you're probably going to find out what Habakkuk means in Hebrew. Lord God, we just thank you for your word. We just thank you that this is a terrible, harsh place to live. And there are harsh, cruel realities that are going on right now, Father. I feel protected here in the Americas, but Father, we do understand that there's coming a day when things are going to be really bad, and we just ask for your deliverance and your protection. We thank you for your love, your sacrifice on the cross, and it is paid our atonement. We thank you for all of that. We give you the praise and the glory in Jesus' name. Amen.